You know where you are!
This is Appetite for Distortion.
Welcome to the podcast, Appetite for Distortion, episode number 499. My name is Brando. Damn is right. Welcome to the podcast, Mr. Tracii Guns. How are you, sir?
I'm great, man. Thanks for having me on. And sorry it took so long to get here, but that's how things go.
Right on. No, I'm happy. I mean, I think it's appropriate for you to be 499. And we're going to get to like why today, as we're recording this, is serendipitous. Actually, I don't want to tease it too much because we'll get into it. But it's the 40th anniversary of the first ever Guns N' Roses interview with
Wow.
you back in 1985.
Wow.
And Raz Q is
Wow.
the one who unearthed that, and it's been online, and we'll get into that.
Okay.
But yeah, for those, obviously, I mean, Tracii Guns, one of those people, you've been a very requested guest over my near 500 episodes, and I'm sorry, I'm distracted by a cat. What is
Yeah,
his name? What's his name?
this is Winter.
Winter.
Winter has a lot to say.
Because we just lost two of our older guys, so I'm
Man, that's brutal. I know.
18 and 19. They
Oh,
were in the same time. Like it's just,
that's what they did. It's kind of like old couples. When one goes, the other one goes.
yeah, it's well, it's sad. So whenever I see a cat now, we're already talking about adopting another one. But oh, and
Good.
that reminds me, I won't have any cats to interrupt us, but my son, soon to be two,
Yeah.
sometimes co-host Baby Brownstone. That's his nickname.
Not baby Brown. I love it.
Harrison Rex is his real name. Harrison named after the Beatle. He's
Nice.
napping in the back. So I don't know. It's like take a ticking time bomb back there. So I'm not
Yeah, it is. I have two boys, and when they were little, yeah, I had a solid 3 years of uncertainty for sure.
right on. See, I knew right away we would. That was the thing. I knew we would get along.
Yeah.
And long story short, and Tracii and I spoke a little bit beforehand. And this is again all on anyone who knows me. My neurosis. I'm neurotic. I'm the Tracii. I know you're the West Coast Jew. I'm the East
Yeah,
Coast
there you go.
Seinfeld. Like, oh, it's always something's always bothering me. That's who I am, and I admit it.
I love
So
it.
years ago, I asked you because sometimes you get interviews on social media. And it's
Yeah,
happened before. You
yeah.
but politely declined. That happens. No big deal. And it was a few years ago. I guess this is for anybody who just may have caught that on Facebook, and I own it because I misread somebody who was trying to connect us for an interview wrote something that I took the wrong way, and I'm like, okay, this is never going to happen. And he's still talking about Guns N' Roses. I don't understand, and
Right.
something's wrong with me. And you were so professional about it. You're like, I don't even know you, but there's nothing personal. I don't, and I believed you because I believe a lot of times it's a manager getting in between the talent, and so apologize to you off the
Wait, wait,
air,
wait.
and I'm
Stop right
sorry.
there.
Okay.
Yes, a lot of times the manager gets between the talent. Okay, let's carry
I think
on.
that's the truth. So
Yeah.
anyway, I mean, any of those who have followed Appetite for Distortion for almost 500 episodes may know that story. I just needed to get it out and just publicly apologize to you because I don't know, I reacted like I do that sometimes. I take things too personally, and it's from my insecurity, and it's just not good. I try to pride myself on being professional, and that wasn't one of those moments. So I'm glad that
You know,
we can
we're
make
all
this happen.
human. We're all human. Humans are peculiar creatures, and you don't need to apologize, man.
Well, thank you. And having that cat there makes a lot everything. They're like therapy cats, even
They are. They
via
are.
Zoom.
This is my buddy.
Well, I guess you can say right now because you're with your buddy. I'm with Tracii Guns. We're lucky motherfuckers, right?
Yes, we are lucky motherfuckers.
You see
That's
that
right.
there's the segue into that's of course one of the singles from the new album that is coming out April 4th, Leopard Skin. So
Yeah.
tell me about that because I one of the common questions I ask and it's just because it's I don't know if this is old hat for you putting out a record or is there a different level of excitement or is there nerves What are old fans gonna think? What are some new fans gonna think? What's kind of the, the petri dish of emotions for a new album?
Well, I think, it changes over the years. This is our like 100th album, something ridiculous. You know, we really, I try to guide the band in a way um, that's mentally stimulating for the band, to where, we don't get kind of complacent or in a resting on our laurels kind of mentality. So, there's always something to look forward to, and that's what keeps it exciting for everybody. And with this album, this is a much lighter, up tempo, less suicidal LA Guns record, to say the least. A lot more swing in it, a lot more rock and roll kind of influences. And, hence the name Leopard Skin, which is like really, to me, very symbolic of classic, rock and roll, starting with rockabilly and, all that kind of stuff. So it all ties together. And, I don't always think about the fans, when putting together albums. I think about the band. I think about, what do we want to do? What is something that we haven't, really explored in a long time? What album are we missing from our collection? Because we're a very diverse rock band. We do a lot of things. Then Phil sings on top of whatever shit I write, and then it sounds like LA Guns. So we're at this point where, Taste It and Lucky Motherfucker, and those are kind of reflections of the band. We know we're lucky. We know that we've been around a long time and have had an unbelievable amount of drama and the stuff legends are made out of. But here we are having a great time. Putting albums out, playing to tons of people, and traveling around mostly the country these days. We haven't been out of the country in a while. But that's what this album's really about. It's mostly about us having a great time.
And that wasn't always that way. So
No.
it's kind of awesome that you're able to kind of sing and celebrate it, at the
Yeah.
towards this portion of your career. It's how strategic of a choice was the word motherfucker though, because it's such a feeling, but also obviously, I mean, it's not like radio really plays new rock today anyway. But I mean, maybe Sirius would play Lucky Motherfucker. I don't
Yeah.
know.
No, I mean, oddly, this is the single that's gotten the most airplay already
Fair enough. Okay, I'm
from
wrong.
from the last five. Yeah, you can't formalize rock and roll. You know what I mean? When it becomes formalized, that's when it dies. That's when people are like, oh yeah, they're just trying to cash in, blah 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 blah. So Mitch Davis, Phil's writing partner, came up with that line, and I didn't hear it until they recorded it.
Okay.
And I was like, "Oh hell yeah!" And I think Mitch and Phil even asked me, like, "Are you okay with this?" And I'm like, "You have no idea how okay I am with it." You know what I mean? I'm like, "Yeah, this is our wet ass pussy. Yeah, fuck yeah. No problem."
Right?
Yeah, so and it's silly, I mean, LA Guns was a young person's band, that was who we were, that's what we represented when we came out. And it's pretty cringeworthy to think of guys, past middle age singing about sex and these things. And we're aware of that. And but we do it anyways, we love it. It's who we are, your soul doesn't age,
Mm.
only your aesthetic. So it just makes it that much tastier, that much more fun.
That's very true. And I'm noticing that as, I'm 41 and I still feel like I'm in my 20s and like dealing with my son. And
Oh
I'm like,
yeah.
when did that happen? Like, when did I become a dad and have to deal with this and having to watch my language around him?
Yeah.
I might have had to, if he will repeat words now. So
Oh
I
yeah.
I might not listen to that one around him. So, So
2 years old. Oh boy, yeah, they turned into minor birds.
that's what they say. So yeah, it's actually same month. So it's a big April, new LA Guns, and he turns 2 on the 26th. So
Amazing, amazing.
do you
Congratulations, by the way.
thank you. And this is a question I like bringing up now, and now I have a reason to, because I'm always interested in a rock star's childhood and just kind of comparing it to, I don't know, maybe it's me and again going back to my therapeutic issues and being like my own issues. Where do they come from? Well, just a parallel to my son, we're already talking about like what show we should want to bring him to, his first rock show. Like we were thinking about, we almost brought him to Slash last summer, but we would have been
Yeah,
too close, too loud.
yeah.
My wife's brought him to Dave Matthews. Quiet, it's fine. Headphones. Do you remember your first show? Like your first hard rock show?
My first hard rock show was Van Halen at the Forum on the Women and Children First tour.
Okay.
And that really, really, I mean, what did I see before that?
Like maybe a show your parents or like an older
yeah, well,
someone brought you to.
my real first concert was the Jackson 5 and Earth, Wind and Fire support with my mom when I was 6.
Beautiful.
I remember a little bit of it. And then I've never been a real big concert goer unless it's something that I gotta see. You know what I mean? Unless it's something that I'm just like, wow, because I just don't have the attention span for it unless it's something I'm like truly invested in, with my brain. Did you just fart?
Talking to the
Dude,
cat. I hear him. So is that what?
yeah. Hey, he's like, oh, you're only 11. You still got control of it. Anyways. So, the bands that I have seen just in general, that was my first concert. And then I saw Motley Crue, like their second or third show, and Wasp and like that stuff when I was 15, 16. But then me and my cousin Willie, we went to see Van Halen. And boy, that sealed the deal for me. I was just like, yes, this is it. This is how you do it. And live music is a real motivator for me when it's something I'm invested in. When it's something that, because I don't have a big record collection. It's mostly, 4 or 5 bands from the 50s, 10 bands from the 60s, 20 bands from the 70s, couple 80s bands, and yeah. You know what I mean? It's like that's what I'm into. Because I'm more of a creator, you know what I mean? I'm more of a music creator. I'm not good at replicating other people's music, like learning somebody's solo or something. That's not my forte. That's not what I can do well. So music to me, and the way that I perceive it, is like an encyclopedia. It's the encyclopedia that motivates me to make these musical puzzles over and over and over and over and over and over again. And that's why we're able to make so many albums and recordings. It's because it's really my hobby, um, of, creating something that I need to hear, that I need to feel. And that all stems ultimately from some live, music. It's unbelievable.
Where do you go then for when you're gonna, okay, I'm gonna work on this next LA Guns record for inspiration, where there is a limited amount of music you listen to, uh or or those are the moments that you do listen to music, or what kind of space do you put yourself into to find the inspiration to put out a new album?
So normally what gets me motivated is I get a deadline.
Okay.
The
That'll do it.
label goes, hey, we need this turned in, 4 months from now.
Oh shit, gotta go.
Then I freak out,
It sounds
and
familiar.
I'm like, what the fuck am I gonna do? And then I look at, the past 3 records, 4 records, look back 20 years. Oh yeah, we did that already. I'm not gonna do that. And for this record, I was in such a great mood overall, anyways, before I started writing, that I was mostly listening to like really good time rock. Everything from Sly and the Family Stone to Eddie Cochran, Aerosmith, James Gang, Funkadelic, like really fun up tempo stuff. And there's the one day I walk down into the studio, I turn an amp on, and I go, now what? It's like now what? Now what do I do? And I hit up Adam, our drummer, our studio drummer, and go, hey, I'm starting today. And he goes, and then he always says, I can't wait. And as soon as Adam says, I can't wait, then I just start riffing out and it starts coming. And then after I do one arrangement, he sends me a drum track and I build one out. It's kind of like building hot rods. I get on a roll and the stuff just comes pouring out, and, kind of the thing in the context of a whole album is to not repeat yourself or repeat myself or the band repeat itself within the album. There are things from album to album where you can go, oh, that's an awful lot like that one, 15 years ago. But that's my nature, I mean, that's what I do. This is the sound I make. So, but on an album basis, I try. The only thing that I'm conscious of is not repeating something on an album. Every song has to be its own thing, stand on its own before there's vocals. So that's what Adam and I do first. Is we make these musical pieces that we want to hear, and then we send it off to the lyric, harmony melody factory with Phil and his buddy Mitch. So it's a real process for us. It's a real set in stone process the way that we do it. We don't jam it out like we used to. We don't do anything. Most of the time, by the time a record's come out, the band has never played any of the songs as a band. So it's like Ace and Johnny, they're the last to come in and play. They're the last. And so they're there right before we mix, and nobody hears anything until after the mixes. And then everybody gets excited, like, I can't wait to, go rehearse or go play this one or that one or the other one. And everybody always has a different favorite. So, it makes it kind of difficult to like, which one or two songs will we add to the live set list after doing, 20 studio records or 50, whatever the number is.
Well, the one sheet says 15, but who's counting?
Yeah, I think there's 15 original music studio albums. I think this is the 15th one.
Right.
So,
At least that's what they say.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what they say. I don't know. I think we've had 10 times more members than albums, something like that.
Well, you mentioned how you alluded to the way that you used to do it. It's not like the way you used to do it. So what was the way that you used to put a song together? And do you consider that just the old school way or the wrong way? So like young Tracii, when you were okay.
When you're young, or when I was young, like, even with Guns N' Roses, LA Guns, and bands surrounding us and things, we had lockout rehearsal halls and we rehearsed every day, every single day, even weekends. That when you're in your late teens, early 20s, and you're going to do this, that's what you do. That's how you get it together. That's how you grow quickly. That's how you come up with songs and ideas and things like that. And with LA Guns, we did that all the way through really our third through Hollywood Vampires, and then Vicious Circle was a different kind of jammy thing. But that was just the way that we did it. And then we did it again on Man in the Moon and Waking the Dead. And, those are all great records. And there's definitely some pageantry to that. There's some kind of, makes it feel like, hey, we put in the work, we sweat, we yelled at each other, we got these songs. You know what I mean? And then when I started, really learning how to engineer and make records on my own around 2011, 2012, I found it, really being able to create something without everybody's fucking opinion was much more focused, much more direct, and less watered down. Because to me, and I think a lot of times in modern country music, that's the vibe I get, is that too many writers, that's why this music sounds watered down to me. It's not one person's vision, you know? So when an architect is doing the blueprints for a building, yes, there are other people involved, but it's the guy's vision that's making that gorgeous building that's going to overlook the water, and the airplanes are going to see it, and the birds are going to fly into it, and you know, all that crap. So since 2010, 2011, 2012, I've been making the records. It's much easier for me to create a whole thing than ask for some constructive criticism. Like, say, hey, what do you guys think? Is this missing anything? You want to add something? You know, so it's still a group effort, but at least I get to go in and do the bulk of the creation first, you know. And with my guys, they just respect it. You know what I mean? The track record has shown in the past 8 years that we've stayed on the right track. And then, you know, Ace and Phil and Johnny, they bring in their tunes, and then we carefully craft them together. And so everything is cohesive, and it's fun that way. It's like, it's not like being in a stinky rehearsal room for, you know, 6 weeks, you know, getting frustrated and having things on your mind that you want to, you know, I got to go outside and smoke 10 cigarettes right now because I can't be in this room anymore. So that doesn't happen anymore, you know, and that's a big upgrade.
It seems like it's taken, you know, it's taken a long time, but finally you have the right formula to how you want to make a record and the people you want to be around. So
Yeah,
that must be, like you said, you've never been happier making a record. Would you? I got to imagine that's part of it. You
yeah.
know, yeah.
Well, when things become fun, then you become addicted to it, and then that's why we put out so many records.
Sure. And fans are loving it. You know, shout
Yeah.
out to one of my journalist friends, Matt Wake, who writes for AL.com and a lot of other great publications like Spin and other, and he
Uh-huh.
praises you guys all the time about how great your last few records have been. And uh, according to these first two singles, this new album will be up to par. Will be up to par with all
Oh yeah.
your recent efforts.
Well, you know, I pay Matt. I pay Matt, and I pay Andrew Daly, you know, to be my friend.
Oh,
No,
okay.
I'm kidding, but I
Oh,
love.
your Venmo hasn't come through yet, by the way. I'm just kidding.
I'm sorry, I'm getting to it. I'm getting to it. I just got to sell one of these pedals over here. I got you covered. Yeah, but uh, those guys get the music sometimes before the other band members do.
Mm.
You know, because they're very critical thinkers. They think with their emotions as far as rock and roll guys. And so when Matthew gets excited, like, let's say I'm halfway through something and I go, hey, what do you think of this? You know, and he gets excited, then that pumps me up. You
Sure.
know, so those are like really some, you know, allies within the journalistic, you know, part of what we do. Man.
Well, that's good. I'm sure that those have been few in far in between in the last few years. You know,
Oh yeah.
last few decades, because not everybody is out for, you know, the artist's best interest. They want to get
No.
clicks.
Yeah.
I do my best not to do that. So that's why I ask beforehand. Is there anything you don't want to talk about, knowing that, you
Well, it's
know?
not so much the journalists anymore. It's my buddies at Blabbermouth, you
Oh
know,
yeah.
and I love those guys. I really do. And you know, people don't really know who they are, but they're very intelligent people. And you know, a lot of times, like when they will make a headline for me,
Hmm.
I know exactly what they're doing, and I sit here laughing my ass off, and I curse them at the same time. You know, I understand, fuckers. You know what I mean? It's kind of like that kind of thing. But you know, they're a business as well, right? You know, and the tabloid business does not have to have so much a sense of seriousness. You know what I
Mm.
mean? As much as you know, Elvis tripped over an alien on his way to bodyboarding. in the glacier. You know what I mean? Like that's a headline. That's a tabloid thing. And Blabbermouth, they provide the news, but they also, they know where their bread is buttered. And I just take it all with a grain of salt. But yeah, I mean, journalistic integrity still exists, but it's few and far in between.
I try to be some of the few, because I
Yeah,
don't, because I get it. Blabbermouth is usually the one that so many people cite that like they come on here. As long as like everything's quoted
right.
correctly, I don't ever freak out, and they're just always interesting. They are smart with their headlines because there are
Yeah,
other online magazines that are just really like they make you think this person killed somebody, and it's just like, oh,
yeah,
they really just slayed the crowd, or it's just like they make it, it's like almost like a lie, a real clickbait.
right.
But that
But the phenomenon of Blabbermouth is the comment section. It always has been, right?
I
Like that's
was gonna
the
bring that
phenomenon.
up too. Yeah,
Is there's so many people expose their anger there, you know, which is a really strange phenomenon. Is it's like, like they'll post something about the motels, let's say, and you'll get all these guys in there. What the fuck does this have to do with hard rock or heavy metal? It's like, why are you so angry, man? you know,
just
you know,
scroll, bro.
yeah, like so that's the thing, and I have no problem speaking on the internet, and a lot of times I'll go on and let people know in the comments like, hey, take it easy, and then everybody does. People, they have the moment of, it's reaction versus response. People on the internet tend to react right away without really thinking about what they're writing, rather than sitting back, take a breath, and go, okay, I'm going to respond to this because it affected me in a way, but they don't do that.
No, it's wanting it's some sort of accolades for saying who, like you want
Right,
it's
right,
like
right,
just to be cool because you don't know this band, or
right.
it's like a whole comment section of Beavis and Butthead characters where this sucks, that sucks. All right, sorry, you don't like Disturbed. Sorry, they're not Slayer. Like it's just you don't just
Right, 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 right,
keep
right, right,
scrolling,
right,
just funny things like that. So obviously, it's been a topic of discussion throughout my tenure doing this podcast because Guns N' Roses, I can't help it. It's not like I set out to do it. I'm
right.
just a nerd where I grew up. They were my favorite band, and I
Yeah,
happened to be in radio. Then all of a sudden, all these sites picking up because everyone wants to say things bad about Axel or whatever it is. So if you don't mind, and I've told you before, and all my listeners know, I'm not that kind of guy, but I have genuine questions. Like here's probably one you've never been asked for, and it might be the dumbest one. Was there ever a thought where you would do Roses and Guns? Did he ever want his name first?
no, because the name of the band was originally an a 5-minute idea that we were gonna just keep recording together, and our label would be called Guns N' Rose.
Mm,
So that's the very origin of the name. So there's some memory loss with me because when Duff first joined the band, which was a couple months in after Ole Beich was the original bass player, he was Michael Rose for a minute, you
yeah.
know, and I can never remember if that's why we changed it to Guns N' Roses, or if just magically we were just like, oh, Guns N' Roses, that's a cool band name. I can't remember.
Okay, because there would be two roses at that
Right,
point. Gotcha.
right.
Mm,
Or
interesting.
maybe we did, and when Duff was Duff Rose, it kind of validated the idea.
Mm.
I can't remember. It was a fucking long time ago, dude.
I know, and I'm sorry to do it to you again because this is just
All
too
right.
cool. The day that we're recording this, so March 24th, this is 2025. So
Right.
1985, 40 years ago today, Guns N' Roses give their first ever interview to KPFK in North Hollywood.
Wow.
It was released, thankfully, because of Raz Q, former guest,
Uh-huh.
friend of the show, former first LA Guns manager, I believe, and
Yeah, he
actually,
was.
yeah. So according to Raz, Izzy set up the interview. Tracy's mom, your mom, taped it on cassette, and
Wow.
Duff had literally joined the band hours prior, but had to go home to sleep for his 9 to 5 job the next day.
Wow.
I don't know if you remember any of this. You guys played early versions of Think About You, Anything Goes, and Don't Cry. Do you remember any of
So
that?
so we were playing live?
Yeah, at this radio station.
Oh, wow, wow. No, I don't
I don't
remember.
expect you to,
Just
but
another day in the life, but I'd love to hear it. You
yeah,
know,
well,
not,
you can listen online and
okay,
if yeah, because it's a long one. If fans want to listen, I have some of it on episode 50 where we interviewed Rob Gardner, but the whole
okay.
thing lives online. I posted just the talk portion on my social media today, so I was just curious. It just was interesting that happens to be the day I interviewed Tracii
Yeah,
Guns, so I didn't
yeah.
expect you to remember anything of that. However,
What, aside from the music, were we talking? Were we saying anything?
yeah, yeah,
Oh,
and
I
Izzy
got
was doing a
it.
lot of the talking, ironically.
It's funny for such a quiet guy.
Right.
So much of the stuff that we would talk about before and after rehearsal, um, he would be very vocal about, about the way we present ourselves, what influences do we mellow out on, what do we bring in, the cool factor of the band, like Izzy was always very concerned about the cool factor, and how do we make our guitars sound different from one another? How do we make our guitars look different from one another? And so for a long time he played a black Les Paul, I played a cream Les Paul, all those kind of things.
Mm.
Those were all thought out. Those were all things. And Izzy, um, who wasn't in the band at first, I called him after we decided to do this and said, "Do you want to be in this band?" And he was like, "Yeah, I want to be in this band." So he comes in, and Izzy and I had already lived together for like a year and a half, 2 years at my mom's, well before we decided to do this. And so we spent so much time talking about, what's passe, but what's vintage cool, what's timeless and stuff like that. So it doesn't surprise me that in this very early interview that he would make sure that he was talking about the vision, like what we are. I got to hear this.
Oh yeah, I'll send it to you. I probably back in the, again remembering. I'm lucky. I remember what I had for breakfast. Did I even eat breakfast? Did I remember to eat breakfast? All of
Right.
those things. Uh, but just to rewind because I think I tagged you in it back in the day. But again, I really would love if you come back, I would love for you to give your your breakdown of all of
Okay.
that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But a couple things I hit on that you mentioned, just for historical reasons. You said you asked Izzy to be in the band. So who was Guns N' Roses first? Was it you, Axel, and Duff? Like who was it first?
No,
Like,
no, no, no. So how it came to be was we played with LA Guns with Axel singing.
right.
We did a show opening for London, and somebody from London detuned all my guitars before we went on. And I'm not naming names, and Axel can name names if he wants. But Axel went lunatic. Once we finally got up there, he tore up a London poster. There's a picture of it.
Hmm.
And so our manager, your friend Raz Q, on the way home, fired Axel from LA Guns. Like, that's unprofessional. I can't deal with this. That was bullshit, kind of a thing. And Axel and I are looking at each other in the car like, what? What the fuck are you talking about? So we get home, and we were sitting on this couch. It's late, like 3 in the morning. And we were serious guys. We were funny guys, but we were serious guys. We were definitely serious about our music. And we had just recorded an EP that hadn't come out yet. So we're sitting there, and Axel goes, "Well, we can keep writing and recording because we know how to do it. We know how to do that now, And I'm like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah, we could do that, certainly." And I go, "We could call the label Guns N' Roses." And he goes, "Yeah, that's easy." You know what I mean? So that was Guns N' Roses. Like, that's how it started.
Hmm.
And I said, "Well, that's a great name for a band." He goes, I go, "We could just change the name of the band." He goes, "Yeah, fuck that. Let's just do that." And I'm like, "Okay." And I said, "I bet Izzy quits London tonight. I'm going to call him in the morning and see if he wants to be in the band."
Mm.
And he goes, "All right." I called Izzy first thing in the morning. You want to be in this new band? And he's like, yeah, and so that was that. So the original band was, LA Guns. It was
Right.
it was Rob Gardner
Hmm.
and Ole Beich and Izzy and me and Axel. And we started rehearsing right away. And then we did, I stuck around for, I don't know, 6, 8 months, something like that. And then first guy to go was Rob. He got an ultimatum from his girlfriend, Devin. It's me or the band. He dumped the band, and
Made the wrong choice.
then she dumped him. It was like so stupid. I can't even look him in the face to this day. And then Ole, he decided, I don't know what was going on with Ole. I named my son after him.
I want to talk about him specifically because, yeah, you did name your son after him.
Yeah,
I don't get to talk about him enough. Please tell me what kind of guy he was.
he was
I just,
he was Danish.
right. No, I mean, I don't mean like that. Like, I
No,
mean,
no,
like the person.
but when I say that, I mean he was stoic. You know what I mean?
Mm,
And
okay.
and full of love inside, and full of insight and education, because people from Denmark are educated. They're
Mm,
musically educated, they're scholastically educated, they're healthy, and blah blah blah. So he came into my life and joined LA Guns originally, and he played with King Diamond or Merciful Fate, for a while before he came over. He was 10 years older than
mm,
me. He was a very much of a guiding kind of big brother figure for me, kind of navigating my early years, like pre 20 years old kind of thing. And we were into metal. You know what I mean? We were into metal, 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 metal. And although that we were huge Aerosmith and Led Zeppelin and Johnny Thunders fans and all that stuff, Ole and I, we met on metal. So, you know, when it turned into Guns N' Roses, he felt that we were, what's the word, kind of pushing metal aside,
okay.
and all of a sudden just decided that, like, well, I don't want anything to do with the glam thing or, anything like that. And he didn't even tell me. He just didn't show up. He told Axel, which really hurt my feelings. Then I was like, what? And Izzy was very, consoling with me. He's like, don't worry, man. My neighbor, this guy, Mike McKagan, he's so cool, and he'll come right in. Don't worry. Everybody's worried because they knew he was my guy. He was like,
Mm,
Ole. But Ole, he had gotten into drugs. He had become friends with a couple people that are real shit fucking human beings. And ultimately, Ole killed himself. He killed himself. He walked right into these little shallow lakes in the center of Copenhagen. And, nobody says it's suicide, but he tried to kill himself earlier by slitting his wrist. So, he killed himself. He drowned himself. And it's the most tragic story of a casualty of LA Guns and Guns N' Roses. And the same with Mike Jagos. He OD'd on heroin later. And,
West Arkeen. There's a lot of them.
Wes Arkeen, these guys
Jeez.
that were the passionate ones, right? That's the thing. Wes was one of the passionate ones. Ole was a passionate one.
Mm,
Mike Jagos was a passionate one. But they had their own ideas, and they had their own whatever it is, whatever it is that makes people that sad and that dark. But anyways, back to the subject. Ole left. And then, Izzy was right about Duff. He came in. I'll never forget the first time I saw him. We were pulling into the alley of H&H rehearsal, and there was Duff. It was like 9:30 in the morning, and he was drinking a big Foster's Lager can, and like none of us really drank at that point, and we're in our big white man, and I'm like, is that him? Izzy's like, yeah, don't worry about that. I'm like, okay, whatever. Go in, and he had a little amp, and he had a chorus pedal. I had never seen a bass player play with a chorus pedal, and and he had that white bass, same one he plays now, and he started playing like this like Getty Lee shit, and I was like, oh hell yeah. I was like, I love this guy. And he had a Johnny Thunder shirt on at the same time. He was, playing. I don't remember what he was playing. But then we started playing our tunes, and he knew them already. Like he'd done his homework. Izzy and I used to make cassette tapes of every rehearsal, and I'll be really pissed at Izzy if he didn't keep them. But so Duff comes in, nails it right away, and we already had Adler. That was another struggle because Axl really didn't want Adler in the band, but he knew the stuff that was kind of derivative of Hollywood Rose because Adler was in Hollywood Rose. So got him in there, and immediately the swing changed because Adler has a very specific swing, and so that was really good. And then Duff came in, and it was really good, and we were all happy. And then that's really when it started firing on all cylinders, and like the shows started getting packed out, and it became a really good time for me for about 7 or 8 months, and then I was done.
And I know you've spoken about some of that before, and believe me, I wish I could talk to you for hours. I mean, I'm sure that's something that a lot of interviewers have said to you because you're very conversational, you're very friendly, you're funny, and you just have all these great stories, and you've been part of so many different things. So I guess within that, before we wrap up, and I want to wrap up with of course, the new LA Guns record, just with the legacy of LA Guns. I know it would never happen just because of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is what it is.
Yeah.
But wouldn't you say that LA Guns and like the Sunset Strip and what all that represents really deserves a place in what's called the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame if it was a Rock and Roll Hall of Fame? Or am I overthinking it? Is it a useless argument? I mean,
I
because I think
just,
Fish is winning the fan vote over like Soundgarden, so I think I've given up all hope.
yeah, I mean, it's a weird thing, when GN'R went in, I got an invitation that I had to pay for, by the way. I'm
Wow.
sure Axl did and Izzy did too. And we all just said, no, man. Bands like us, musicians like us that were purely in it to rile up the audience, you know, awards are fine. I'll take my gold records and my band of the year, guitarist of the year. I love that stuff because it's a good ego stroke. But to put any kind of legitimacy into the Ohio's Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is anything other than just a beauty pageant. You know what I mean? It's more of a place for people to pay for their tables so they can hear about their band getting inducted and then having a laugh and a party, which is the party part I'm all about. I'm always up for a good party, but to place like any kind of, it does not validate anybody's creativity or artistic value.
I agree with that, and sorry, because also Baby Brownstone. I don't know. Now it's my turn to have background screeches. You had the cats, and now I have my guy waking up. So when you said you got an invite, or you would have had to have paid for an invitation, would you have been inducted with Guns N' Roses, or just to?
No, I don't think I would have been inducted with the band. It was
Tracii Guns.
it, hey, little Brownstone.
Oh, it's okay.
Hey.
Aw.
Look how sleepy you are.
I know. He's got his Kurt Cobain haircut, long
Looks
hair.
so cool, man. Little dude.
He doesn't like where I wear headphones. He likes to grab my ear. So give me
Right,
one
right.
second while I readjust my headset. I can
No
hear you.
worries.
I can hear
No
you.
Yeah.
Uh, so yeah, I mean, wait. So answer that again. Forgive me. This is
Oh,
what I
okay.
said. Like,
So
would you would not have been inducted with GNR, right?
no, I don't think so. I just got an invitation, and I'm sure other people did too. People involved with Guns N' Roses, kind of a
Like
thing.
Gilby.
Probably, yeah. Like I don't
Yeah,
know.
yeah.
Um,
Well,
because did Gilby play?
he played, but he
Oh, there
wasn't
you go.
inducted, of course.
Right. But I mean, I don't need any Guns N' Roses validation. I mean, my name's right there. You know what I mean? So like, yeah.
So with that, let me ask. with this year being the 40th anniversary that you started it,
Mm.
should you be acknowledged somehow? I think you should.
My
Like,
name's right there.
that's it. That's enough. Acknowledge. Okay, that's
Yeah, I
all you
mean,
need.
there's only two guys named there, and I'm one of them.
Fair enough. Fair enough. And
Yeah, I mean, I didn't look. I knew Guns N' Roses was going to do something. There's no doubt in my mind. But I really believe that I made the right decision for everybody. You know what I mean? Because it was, I remember, I grew up with Slash, right?
hmm
And at that time, when we were just starting to like really get that audience, like it was really turning into something, Slash would come and stand in the audience. And he was working, I think, at Tower Records or Tower Video or something. And he's such a brilliant artist. He made our first logo.
Mm.
That I had already had my name out there without Guns N' Roses because of LA Guns, for example. I mean? It's already in the scene doing my thing. And I see my buddy, my rival, my rival, on any given day. And, when things went down, and Izzy said, well, we're just going to have, Slash fill in for you then until you get your head out of your ass, whatever it was. And I was like, yeah, exactly. Like this isn't a hard equation to figure out. And it lifted so much weight off my shoulders because, as you know, I leave my own band.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then that bears some like really strange perception for people that are looking in, like, what's wrong with this guy? Why does he do these things? And it's because, my well-being comes first, and I don't put, some artists, not just musicians, but they measure their success by maybe money or maybe by kind of like the way people want to be validated on the internet. It's like, fuck, look at all these people following me, whatever.
Yeah.
But for
All these
me,
likes.
and if you ask Izzy, if you asked Axel, if you ask Slash, if you ask Duff, if you ask anybody I've ever worked with, they would all say Tracii doesn't care. He wants to play the guitar, he wants to write the music, and he wants to do his thing. And if there ever becomes a time in a working unit where I can't just do my thing, I'm gone.
You sound like Izzy. You sound like Izzy.
Izzy and I are so aligned with what we think is not embarrassing, and we all do embarrassing things, but we really try hard not to.
What was the last time you spoke to him?
It's been a while now. Izzy, he checks out way more than I do, obviously.
Yes.
It's been over 20 years now, because the last time we talked was when there was some celebration of Guns N' Roses at the Key Club. And I think that was the last time I talked to Slash too. Slash and I had a long one, and Izzy and I kind of laughed.
We'll get more. Don't worry. He wants more milk.
I don't blame him. And
He
Slash
wants more Tracii Guns. That's what he wants.
I don't blame him for that either. But it was funny, because Izzy was with Henry and Joseph, these guys that own Retail Slut, I think, the coolest DJs in LA, and they had been friends for 20 years at that point. He was there with them. And then Slash kind of showed up, and I was hiding out in the trailer in the back, and he came up and we talked for a while. I go, you're supposed to play. He goes, I ain't doing this shit. You know what I mean? So that was kind of the last two things I've heard from those two guys. And it's been I don't remember how long ago that was. It was a while ago.
Well, right on. You hope, because I'm one of those, like, I love members past and present. You all have contributed to music that we love in one way or another. And it's a small family. That's how this podcast, I always do it. I call it a 6 degrees of GN'R bacon. Obviously, you can't get any closer than naming the band.
Right.
So I really didn't need that here, but it's kind of always just to show no matter what differences we may have, what language, where we are in the world, we can meet here to talk about great music, and it kind of is all through that, through guns and rose-colored glasses. That's another one of those really corny.
I like that. I like that. But
Well,
the other night I decided consciously I'm not going to write a
okay,
book,
okay.
which was been a real back and forth thing, from family members, band members, and the public. Like, you need to write a book. You need to write a book. A book is only interesting when you're telling horrible stories about people and things that they've done. A feel good book doesn't sell.
Hmm.
A feel good book is, what a great guy, and we had this great experience. Nobody cares. It's 2025. And it takes a long time. It would take a very long time for me to write a book. But I have nothing bad to say about anybody that I've worked with. I have lots of horrible stories I could say, but I would never want to hurt someone's feelings, especially at our age. What's the point,
Right, yeah.
I wouldn't want someone to get angry with himself or angry with me. And I think that there's enough out there already, as time goes on, that if anybody's really interested, they can get to all the meat. You know what I mean? Without me going and sitting in a fucking book, They come to my book signing. It's like really? Tracii Guns book signing? Oh, a little brown.
Oh, he knows how to do sign language. More? He's like, no, I want more, Tracii. More. What you
Here.
can do. Can you say LA Guns? What? Because we'll wrap up soon. I'm so lucky that the fact that he slept through most of this.
That's great.
But what you just as a suggestion, because my next interview is going to be with Alan Niven.
Oh, I love Alan.
He's I'm lucky enough to call him a friend,
Yeah.
and he's putting out a book, and it's going to be a collection of stories
Yeah.
rather than an autobiography. So that's something that perhaps you can do, and just like what you're doing with LA Guns now in Leopard Skin, which is out April 4th, is that do it the way you want to do it. Don't think about the reader, the fans, and just however it comes out, all positive, whatever it is. It's your book, and if it shouldn't matter based upon what your personality, it shouldn't matter if it sells or not. It's going to make you
Right.
happy.
But I don't want to put the work into it.
That too.
That's what it's kind of come down to, and that's what I would do. Is exactly what Alan is. It would be a collection of stories based on people. This person, this person, this person, this person. At the end of the day, and Rich Beanstalk, who's written everything else cool.
He's been on the podcast, yeah. He's nice.
Yeah, he's one of my best friends, and he wants to do it, and he's wanted to do it, but I just ain't gonna do it.
Okay.
I'm gonna write more music instead.
I won't twist your arm. Hey, just keep doing more podcasts, and I'll be happy.
Yeah, I think we're gonna start an LA Guns podcast. I'm gonna look at an outline in my email, and I'll keep you posted on that. And it will be very interactive with the band. But I'll let you know when.
Well, if you need a producer, let me know. I someone to edit some audio. I'll help you out. Let me know.
Hey, right on, man. I appreciate it. Look at that face. He's like,
he's got his Ritz crackers. He's happy. One of these days, he will be my co-host. One of these days. Can you say Tracii? Say Tracii. Tracii?
He's like
with Ritz in his mouth. Well, he can't say cat. Show him. Can you show him your cat? Maybe he'll recognize it. That might be a cute moment.
Come on, Winties.
Oh, want to see the cat? Look at the cat. Look at the cat. Isn't that cute?
Meow, 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 meow,
I think he's still waking up. He sees it.
Yeah, he is. He's smiling. Look at that. Look at that. Meow, 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 meow.
This will be the cover of the episode, by the way. Cat and baby. So, well, anyway, Tracii, just thank you so much for your time today.
My pleasure.
A long time coming. It was meant to happen today and have this conversation. Just thanks for talking about new LA Guns and talk about Ole. I talk about mental health and addiction, and I lost my dad to suicide 11 years ago, and it's so we just moving forward, and just try to talk about the positive things. A lot of negative things we can't talk about, and let's focus on the positive. So that's what I'll keep doing. So that does it for this episode of Appetite for Distortion.
All right, guys.
When will we see the next one? In the words of Axl Rose concerning Chinese democracy, I don't know if soon is the word, but you'll see it.
Thanks to the lame ass security, I'm going home.